23-24, going once, going twice.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about understanding player values in an auction value or in an auction draft. So typically, what happens is I like to start my research after the coaching movement has settled down. That's usually when I like to start my research. Is I want to make sure kind of rosters, for the most part, are settled, and the coaching is settled as well. And that's when I usually start to dive into some of my player research. And based off of that,
So what are we talking? Like a month? What before draft?
I mean,
2 months? A week?
Usually I will start in June, but that's because I'm a bit of a weirdo.
June?
I'm a bit of a weirdo.
Man.
I'm a bit of a weirdo. So I'll start in June. I continue to monitor through July. But that's a little excessive, and I tend to be
I tend to start it towards the end of July, if we're being honest.
Okay, well, doesn't shock me. But so one of the things that I always try to recommend to people is you want to monitor what a lot of the different air quote professional people are putting out there for players and understanding how good they're going to be for the upcoming season, because you can actually leverage that, and you can either agree with them or disagree with them. And if you disagree with them, you can tend to abuse that typically with how you nominate players or put them out there at a certain level throughout the auction draft. And it also pays dividends to do that.
Do you have an example in mind that you can kind of share with us?
I mean, for me personally, there's a few guys I do like to monitor and pay attention to, and it's because I trust what they're putting out there. Some other people, there's a lot of talking heads sometimes on ESPN or on other platforms that I feel are not quite as dialed in. I think they're just in the cycle, and they just put arbitrary stuff out there.
Yeah.
And I like to use that information in my drafts against people, because what they say tends to push values up on players that really should not hold value, and you can leverage that against people in the league that maybe live or die by what someone like a Matthew Berry says, or
I tend to
certain followers.
I tend to do the same. There's very few guys I actually listen to in the fantasy world where I'm like, I agree with them, but I like to go into my draft. So if I'm on an ESPN draft, I like to do research on ESPN analyst.
Yep.
Just so I know what everyone else is thinking. I don't have to be listening to their research or agreeing with them, but I need to know what the rest of my league is. And so, yeah, I do the same. I like to listen to some of the more popular or famous fantasy football experts just to see what everyone else is thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
So another strategy that you wouldn't even think about in an auction draft is nominations. Just nominating a player is a strategy. I tend to... There's the beginning of the draft. Are you nominating players to eat up as much money as possible? Or is there a specific player you might want to sneak in where they might not bid on as much because there's higher valued players out there? What do you do, Joe?
It really depends on the year and the round, right?
That's true.
So early on, I tend to like to throw out quarterbacks often, because I feel like the value gaps between quarterbacks are not as great as what people think they are, and they tend to bid much higher on quarterbacks than probably what they should. So throwing out a prominent quarterback like a Josh Allen or maybe a Jalen Hurts that someone is willing to spend a lot of money on, if they get caught up in a bidding war, that that tends to push more money out and give me greater leverage in the next round.
Do you prefer that strategy? So let's say you throw out in $100 league, you throw out Josh Allen, and he goes for about 15, and that eats $15 off someone's cap. Or would you rather throw out a Christian McCaffrey, who could go anywhere from 25 to 30, and you take off $30 of their cap?
Well, I think Christian McCaffrey, especially this year, he would take 30 off of the cap, or 25, 30 off the cap.
Just
in
strictly
that
speaking.
value speaking, in that scenario, he's going to take that money off of someone's cap regardless. It doesn't matter if everyone's doing their work and research.
Some could say a quarterback will take that money off regardless too.
Potentially yes, but if you have two people that are committed, there's going to be more than one person committed to a high prominent running back. So that running back is going to go for a premium. Whereas quarterbacks tend to, there might be people that are not as high on them.
Yeah.
One example that I can think of is someone like a Lamar Jackson, right?
Okay.
Lamar Jackson, I know this year he is going much higher than what he has in previous years, but in previous years there doesn't seem to be the same amount of action on a quarterback like Lamar Jackson as opposed to someone like, I don't know, Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. There's more name recognition with certain quarterbacks that tends to induce bidding.
So you're saying
Even someone like a Justin Herbert.
So while everyone has the money, let them bid.
Oh yeah.
Okay. No, I agree. I think that's a good approach. I think it's also important to recognize if you don't want the player, then it doesn't hurt your team at all. Throw him out there early, get him out there. So if someone spends $10 on somebody you don't want, that's $10 you don't have to compete with later.
I would also say, though, if you go into the draft with a plan and there are certain players that you absolutely want to have on your team, sometimes it does make more sense for you to throw out that player immediately while you have the full strength of your budget to make sure you can secure him, and then you have time to figure out, okay, I just spent maybe too much on this guy. I got to figure out the rest of my draft now, where I'm going with my money and how and why. It does give you an opportunity to kind of reassess and think. Or maybe the guy you want, you go all in and someone goes over the top of you and you're just like, I don't want to go that far. And then it gives you again.
You waited too long.
Yeah.
And now you don't have anybody else to draft. So yeah. It does happen. So, yeah, I can see how it's good in some sense to throw out your guys early. I think the best example, though, if there's a guy you want early, if it's not one of those top 3 players in the position, but let's say you want a number 5 player in the position. Let's say you want A.J. Brown this year. Everybody's still on the board, every wide receiver. More than likely, you throw out A.J. Brown first. They might not go as high because there's still Tyreek Hill, there's CeeDee Lamb. You might sneak A.J. Brown at cost, maybe $1 cheaper, and in the end, every dollar counts. And I'm gonna tell you and everybody, you know this more than anyone. What I've been doing lately, our league is a little different with defense. We give more points to defenses, so they're a little bit more value. So what I like to do is I like to throw out defenses for $1. And if I bid them, or not bid them up, but if they go for $3, $4, like the Cowboys or the Jets, that's $3 or $4 I don't have to compete with at the end of the draft. So while they're in snake draft mode, I might get a key sleeper for $2. Or if they can't afford it, that's just how I look at it. What do you think about that strategy?
I think it's really good that you mentioned that, because a key thing that I think a lot of people fail on is actually with defense and kickers when it comes to especially auction drafts and strategies. Listen, no kicker, no defense, in my opinion, is worth more than $1. Pay $1 for that. If someone else is paying more, let them have it. Because at the end of the day, when you get deeper into the season, you can rotate defenses off of the waivers to play matchups. Kickers, I mean, obviously you want to prioritize kickers properly, but
I will say though, there is a strategy where defense and kickers are important. In our league and other leagues do it too. Is they pay for a top player at each position. So if you want that top player at each position, you might pay, or your league mates might pay, and you could use that against them.
There's strategy behind that type of setting, but again, that's a know the rules of your league type of scenario. And if we're just speaking to a general league that's being done without any type of special rules to it, I would never recommend paying more than $1 for a defense or a kicker.
I'm curious how you handle nominations. We get how to throw them out, when to throw them out. How do you bid on players you want? Are you aggressive? Do you lay back and sneak a bid in at the very end? Or are you in gun ho and you let everybody out? This is my guy, and you mark your territory.
It depends. It really does depend. I like to see who the players are that are involved. Sometimes.
When you say players, do you mean the league mates, or
the other league owners that might be bidding on it? I do at times like to see who they are bidding on it, and then maybe I swoop in afterwards. If it's someone that's going to be kind of my ride or die for the season, I'll go all in at the start, and I'll be very arrogant and in their face about it as well. No, this is my guy. I'm not letting anyone have him.
So this is where auction leagues become fun to me. So at the beginning of the draft, I like to lay low. I like to get everyone all energized, and let's say you and someone else are bidding. I let you guys bid, and I let you guys think you're gonna win them, and then I'll come in right at the end, because every auction has a going once, a going twice, and then I'll come in and go over the top just to piss them off, and that makes me laugh. If I don't win, I'm still having a great time, because now they know someone else is in the bid. But if it's towards the middle or the later draft, and not everyone has money, I like to mark my territory, let them know this guy's mine, and I'm aggressive from the start. I'll start in at $2, and if I have my hard cap on this player, let's say $10, and someone bids up $3, I'm not going up $1. I'm going up $2. I want them to know, like, this guy's mine, and if you're gonna bid, you're gonna bid higher. And I've also, just to throw it out there, I've earned a reputation where I've been known to bid other league mates up. This is a great strategy if you know you're going to be with a group of guys for years to come. It's okay to get caught bidding people up at the beginning. You build a reputation. They have no clue if you're bidding them up or if you want the guy. That's the reputation I have built. Till this day, I'm sure he can testify. He doesn't know which players I want during the draft. But yeah, so that's a great strategy. I like to have fun, and I like to mess with the other league mates during the draft. I don't like my voice, so I think you should intro.
You want me to intro?
And your mom's talking to you right now. She said, don't slouch.
He's not. It's a big chair, and I put it lower to make you even. Unless you want to be taller than you.
He is taller than me.
No, but I mean, like a lot. Your chair is higher, his is lower. And his chair is
Yeah, your mom still said don't slouch. Now, we haven't found any information where we could kind of do research, so we decided to do some auction research of our own and share it with all of you out there. So we could do something like that. It wasn't perfect, but because
you should have just done that and handed it off to me. That was great.
Well, you should.
You did a good job.
Okay, well, I could say that again.
You did a good job.
All right, I got it then. Thanks for the compliment.
Well,
Are you ready? I was about to go.